In this video, we're going to cover counting whole notes and half notes. Before we get to those, I want to review counting quarter notes, which is what we went over in a previous video. So in one measure of 4/4 time, we're going to have, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the downbeat over here in all of these measures. So the way that we write in the counts for this first 4/4 bar, each quarter note is going to be on a beat. As we heard in the previous video, all of those are going to be downbeats. And that means that your foot is going to be hitting the ground every time you hear one of these clicks, one of the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 which means right in between is going to be when your foot goes up, down, up, down, up. So there's ups in between every downbeat. So if I were to go over one complete bar of down ups of what the direction of your foot when it's tapping, it's going to be like this. 2, ready, go. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And if I were to count the measure and say the numbers, I would say this. 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And by the way, this is not a full measure. I just want us to get used to going on to the following measure. So I'm writing a hypothetical beginning to the next measure, which is why I'm going to add that what's called a downbeat, an extra downbeat at the end, an extra beat 1. Okay, so that is one full measure of 4/4 in quarter notes. Now we're going to cover counting whole notes. So a whole note, just to review, has 4 beats. I'm going to go ahead and write that here. I'll erase it in a moment. So that means if each one of these quarter notes got their own beat, that this whole note includes the same length of time that would have been taken up by 4 quarter notes. So if I were to write the counts for this whole note, there would be 1 is what we obviously would start with. Now, there's only one note. It just lasts a long time. So the other notes, I'm going to put in parentheses. 2, 3, 4. There's no notes above them right here. So I'm going to put them all in parentheses and separate them with commas, just so I don't get confused and think that I end up articulating any notes during that time. So I'm going to count this measure for you. Actually, let me go ahead and write in the directions. So that's where all the downbeats would be. I'm not going to write the ups at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and just put when your foot goes down, just to make it a little simpler to look at. So let me count this measure for you. You remember that the downs are going to be like down, 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 down. That's when your foot is hitting. But there's only one note in the measure, so it's going to last that whole time. So I'm going to sustain my voice to simulate sustaining the note in whatever instrument that it is you're playing. So counting it would sound like this. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 1. And I have another 1 over here that we added because we're going to the downbeat. You'll notice that that whole note lasted the entire bar, but I never said any of those numbers because I only articulate once. There's only one beginning of the note. That's why I say 1 at the beginning, and the syllable 1 lasts throughout, even though 2, 3, and 4 are still happening in my head. That's also called subdividing, when you're dividing up the measure in your head to make sure you keep track of all the beats that are happening, even though you're not necessarily articulating on all of them. In other words, you're not necessarily saying all the numbers or hitting on all of the numbers if you're playing percussion, or tonguing on all of them if you play a wind instrument. So that would be a whole note. I'm going to count that one last time. 2, here we go. 1, 1. Now I'm going to cover half notes. Okay, so you'll notice, especially if you went over our previous video, that there can be 2 half notes that fit in 4/4 time signature. The way that we would count these, of course, we still have all the same downbeats. 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are still going to happen in this bar. So we do know, though, that each half note, actually, let me write that first. Each half note has 2 beats. which means that two of these quarter notes, 1, 2, could fit inside one half note. The length of time two quarter notes would have taken to play is how long each half note is going to be in and of itself. So the counts would be 1, and the second beat that's included would be in parentheses, would be 2. And then the next one would be 3, and beat 4 is also included in parentheses, and then obviously the downbeat would be 1. Just to make sure we're clear on where all the downbeats are, the downs happen on all the numbers, just as before. I'm going to go ahead and count this measure for you, keeping in mind that the downs sound like this. Down, 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 down. Okay, now I'm going to count the half notes for you. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 3, 1. Try one more time. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 3, 1. I lost my little cursor there. I'll do it one last time. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 3, 1.